Hello everybody, I'm Chris.
I am Brandon.
And this is Audio Addiction. This is our review, which we're looking very much forward to talking about. A Day to Remember's new album, Bad Vibrations. This is put out by their own label, A Day to Remember Records, with help from Epitaph Records. And who's the members in Day to Remember these days?
Well, Jeremy McKinnon, he does all the lead vocals, and then we got Kevin Scaff, he does the lead guitar and some backups. Same with Neil Westfall, he does rhythm guitar and some backups. Then we got Josh, he plays bass, and then we got Alex, and he plays drums.
Alright, so just what we're going to talk about today is we're going to break down every track, and then we're going to just basically say what we liked and what we didn't like of the track. We're going to go through them all. We're going to score it up. We each have our own score, and that's going to be it. So let's jump into the first song. We have Bad Vibrations. And I actually really enjoyed this song. This is the second single I think they put out, and it's basically like they're trying some new stuff with this one, but they are definitely sounding to their old vein a little bit. For those who have heart, I think it sounded somewhat like that. The chorus is this really cool, like layered, like Jeremy's like screaming, but at the same time it's like singing. So I thought that was really awesome. They had this like acapella screaming, which is like in the beginning of the song that kind of introduced you. I thought this was a great way to start off the album. What'd you think about it, Brandon?
I would totally agree with you on that. I also feel like I get some like Bring Me the Horizon vibes in the chorus part, especially with that kind of, like you said, like acapella sort of part where there's like a big chorus. I feel like this chorus is huge. It's one of the bigger choruses on the record, I'd say. And I love this track. Again, I agree with you in the sense that it is probably a great opener for this album.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on to track number 2. This is actually, I think, their first single they put out.
Yeah, it is.
Paranoia. I'll lead this one off again. When I first heard this song, I was like, "Oh no, this is not looking good for this album." Because first off, I thought that it was a little odd with the verse. The vocal style was kind of like this new metal-ish kind of sound. I mean,
it's more like hardcore, I would say.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I dug this track a lot. I still dig it. I would say it's a grower though, in that sense, but it's something different, and I like that they're trying to do something different, and it's not like the same stuff like on their last album, Common Courtesy. I would say that's probably my personal least favorite, but I like what they're doing in this track.
Yeah, I mean, I did like the hardcore punk feel to it for sure. It's just the vocals, and that was just part of the song. I actually like the chorus in the song.
Yeah.
It's really good. I'm like a time bomb ticket in your head. I like those lyrics. They're pretty awesome. So yeah, like you said, I mean, I've been listening to this track a few times now. It's definitely grown on me for sure. But we'll move it on to track number 3, which is called Naivety. They just put this as a single out a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
This definitely kind of reminds me of like an Alkaline Trio intro. Is pretty cool, like a Time to Waste. And in the verse, he definitely has like a Sum 41 kind of feel to like his vocals in a way. It's kind of like a pop punk-ish kind of vibe to this song. Very, very cool.
I would say this one's my least favorite. And it's probably my least favorite off of all of the singles too. It just didn't really catch me. I do think it's a solid track, but to me, it's my personal least favorite on this record. Though I do like that they went in like that kind of straightforward like pop punk vibe in this record, and especially on this track too.
Yeah, I just really like how well it's produced though. Like I mean, the harmonies in the background are like awesome. This track is the first track on the album that doesn't have any screaming whatsoever, so it really focuses on Jeremy McKinnon's skill of the clean vocals, which I think shine this song. I think that chorus and especially like the verse and everything is just really well executed by him. But yes, we're gonna move on to the fourth song. Now this is called Exposed. This is a very, very heavy song. I think it's gonna hit you in the face when you first hear it, like, oh man, it's gonna be one of the heaviest on the albums. I really like what Alex did on drums for this song. It just really kicks into high gear right from the get-go. With a steady double bass, like it just keeps it going the whole time. And it just sounds like a really great metalcore kind of track. The breakdowns are really cool. If you listen to this song on using headphones, like it goes in and out your left ear with the breakdown, which I thought was really cool, subtle kind of stuff that really adds to the depth of the song itself. The chorus kind of gave me like a little bit of like an Atreyu vibe, a little bit. I know I'm pulling these references out, but it's pretty cool. What'd you think about it?
I love this track. I think it's honestly one of my favorites off the record. It's just super heavy, and also reminds me a lot of like some of the people that Jeremy and the rest of A Day to Remember work with. They worked with Wage War this past year, so it reminds me a lot of what Wage War was doing on their last record. On this new record, obviously Blueprints. And it just gets super heavy around like that 1 minute towards the end. It just blows out, and I would definitely say this is one of my favorites on this whole record.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And one of the lyrics I actually pulled out of this, which is probably my favorite on the record, at least it resonates with me the most now, listening to it a few times, is right when they're going into the breakdown. He says, like a shark that's coming to surface, we got a taste for blood. I'm like a huge shark fan. So I'm like, oh, that is just awesome. Like, they have some kind of thing when it comes to like animals. Like there was like the one reference to like a wolf or something a couple albums ago. So I like how Jeremy channels the inner beast of himself to like really just push through these harsh vocal breakdowns. So the next song we have coming up, number 5, this is another single they had. It's called Bullfight. So this is a really cool intro with the reverb on Jeremy's voice. I thought that was really interesting. With the background guitar being like this upbeat kind of thing. It's really unique to A Day to Remember. I haven't heard them do that too much. But yeah, they had the background screams for like real emphasis. There's not too much screaming in this song, but just in the chorus, like I liked it. It was kind of like that post-hardcore-ish kind of sound, like from like the really early days. So I was like, oh, this is great. So yeah, they mix that with like, it's really great screaming, and just vocals all around with Jeremy are awesome on this one. What'd you think?
I know they also did like a cool breakdown part, I would say towards the end as well. That was neat. As well as it gave me a lot of Pierce the Veil vibes. I like Pierce the Veil, like especially Misadventures, maybe more like their older albums, like Selfish Machines and stuff like that. I definitely got Pierce the Veil sort of vibe, and they obviously have worked with them. So I'm not surprised that they kind of took influence from them. But this one was another one of my favorites, especially out of the singles, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to move on to Reassemble. Now, this is another super heavy song these guys put out. It definitely is more of like a metal vibe. There's this cool, I like the opening a lot. It's like this really epic, like it sounds like there's like an army of people like cheering. Like it's just really awesome. It gets you in the headspace, like, all right, this thing's gonna like hit you in the face, and it immediately goes into overdrive, and it's just like, holy crap, man, this thing is heavy. And the breakdowns in this one especially stood out to me on the album. They were just really cool. And then at the end, it kind of goes in this little acoustic interlude. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that was pretty sweet. What'd you think about it?
I totally agree with all of that you were saying, especially the intro. That is probably like one of the coolest intros they've done to date. It's definitely a heavy track. Another one of my favorites as well. Again, it's just got that aggressive vibe to it, and I like the cool little outro again with the acoustic guitar. I feel like that just kind of adds that vibe to it. I mean, it gets you really pumped at the end, and then towards the end of the track, you're like, oh, this is nice. And then it goes right into the next track, which is Justified. I would say I like this track as well. This is another great one. Another like super solid track from these guys. I would say this is probably, honestly, one of their most solid albums to date, I would say. I don't know what else to say about this. It's just another solid track from these guys.
I'm kind of with you on that, where it's like I don't have too much to say about this song particularly, because to me at least, it was one of the ones I liked a little bit, on the lesser side. It was like, for me, it was kind of like the lyrics kept repeating over and over and over again. And it kind of, for me, it kind of like drug on a little bit. There wasn't much variation to me in this song in terms of like instrumentals. It kind of seemed all the same for the most part. So yeah, I mean, Justified, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite song, part of my favorite songs on the album. But up next, we got another great punk-ish song called "We Got This." This was another one of their singles. What'd you think of this, Brandon?
I know it just came out like a few days ago, but I enjoyed this one. It's totally different from what you typically expect from them, in terms of more recent music, because I know they went more like rock sort of stuff. So this is getting back to their roots, I'd say. I really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the like solo part. I feel like that was cool in this track, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, like
yeah.
that was really interesting. I don't think they've ever done a solo on any album that I can think of, and yeah, I just love the pop punk vibe to it. It's definitely something that just refreshes your musical palette when you're digging this track. What were your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I definitely, for me, I kind of got a homesick type of feeling from this album.
True.
Like it's just like this real, upbeat kind of sound, and it's like the harmonies are great in this, and it reminds me kind of, I don't know, it kind of reminded me of like a Wonder Years song a little
Yeah,
bit too
I
with
could
that
totally get
chorus.
that. Yeah.
So I'm not the only one who thought that. So yeah, this was a solid track. I like this one. So next up we have song number 10. This is called. Same about you. So, what do you think of this?
I'd say this is the same with the last track that we just talked about. I also like the solo on this one. This one was probably, again, I think they haven't done much in terms of like solo stuff, so I dug that a lot. Also, they always have to do kind of like a radio rock track, and I
Hmm.
feel like this is their radio rock track, and I really enjoyed it. I don't think like anything crazy happened, but I still think it's definitely a notable track on this record.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely like that ballad type of
Yeah.
song. It's like that very, kind of not really, kind of slower, but it's got a really cool guitar solo in there for sure.
So we'll move on to track number 10, which is Turn Off the Radio. This one, I would say, is the biggest curveball on this record, I would say, in terms of just vocal, just
Oh
performance and
yeah.
stuff like that. Jeremy really went out of his comfort zone on this track, I feel like, and you get to hear his higher register and kind of like, you know, borderline like falsetto. I feel like this track was really cool. It is a little bit, it gets a little bit slow at times, like just how the track runs and stuff like that. But I definitely like what they did on this, just in terms of vocals and stuff like that. I feel like Jeremy really shines on this track. What
Yeah,
was your thoughts?
I definitely agree with that. I don't know. I just felt like the high, like he really hit some high notes, and
Yeah,
they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Honestly, I was like,
really.
oh yeah, I was like a little, okay, he's going a little too high there for me. I don't know if I really dig that. And this was another track that kind of just went on and on for me. Like I'm like, all right, I just want to hear the next one already. So this is one of my least favorite tracks on the
Ooh,
album.
okay.
Yeah, it just didn't really stick with me too well. So
And we'll move on to the last track, which is Forgive and Forget. I have to say they did an amazing job on this. I really enjoy this track. It kind of harkens back to If It Means a Lot to You from Homesick, but just on
mhm.
steroids. It has really kicked it in. It really just the whole production value on this track is just crazy. I just love Jeremy's voice in this. I like when he's kind of like has those tender moments. It really just brings the track together, and I feel like this one's gonna be a big hit for sure after like this album releases and stuff like that. I think it will be just as big as If It Means a Lot to You. I think it's an awesome way to just kind of like round out the album. It just gets you excited for just the rest when you repeat it and stuff like that. So, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think he could have said it better actually, because I was gonna say that point too. Like this is the track you want to have to close an album that was as great as this. Like, and we start off, we're going real fast pace on some of these songs,
Yeah,
and now this kind of brings us back to that point and kind of slowly gets us back down to another
Totally.
level. But like I like the progression of the song because it starts off, you know, just like a guitar, and then it just like slowly builds up the instrumentals, and it's a great way to just end this awesome album. So that was our track by track analysis. So we're gonna move on to overall thoughts on the album. So we're gonna move into our positives. So for me, I really liked how this album really experimented with a lot of different flavors of A Day to Remember. So we got like some really hard, like metalcore stuff, then we got some hardcore stuff, then we got some pop punk stuff, and they did a great job of peppering these songs and sequencing them in the album to continually making it fresh while you're listening to this thing all the way through.
I would totally agree with that. I definitely enjoyed the diversity of it. I think another cool thing to mention is that if you don't know, A Day to Remember does a lot of working with other bands. Like they've worked with Neck Deep, they've worked with This Wildlife, they've worked with Wage War, they've worked with a ton of different bands. I feel like you can pick up some of those things that those bands do best, and they kind of took it into this album and kind of added their own, you know, A Day to Remember spin to it. And I feel like that's another notable thing on this record is just that, you know, they just took different bands kind of like sound, kind of did their own thing with it, and they came out with some really good stuff. But I also think I also agree with Chris in the way that this production on this album was great. I like the different like sort of little things that get added into the tracks, like, you know, maybe like, you know, some like chorusy parts where it just is huge. There's just some like different added things like acoustic guitars, just a whole bunch of different effects that you get on this album, and just makes it just a whole piece and like whole album, I'd say.
Yeah, this is one of those albums that you're gonna listen to for a long time, and you're gonna still pick up little subtle, subtle musical, you know, little tidbits in there. Where it's like, oh, I never heard that before, and you know, like it's one of those things. Like I said, you gotta listen to it with you know, earbuds or because you're gonna definitely hear some stuff that if you're listening to the speakers, you won't really hear that.
Totally.
Another thing I really liked is that, you know, for the most part, a lot of these singles were like the first tracks on this record. So once you get past those like 4 tracks, it's like nothing but like new songs that you've never heard before. So I thought that was really exciting because you had no idea what was coming next, and it was just like this nice little surprise. You know, a couple of those songs I really liked, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome stuff. And yeah, so I really enjoyed that. And you know, Jeremy McKinnon in general on this record, this guy is really, like you said before, he's getting out of his comfort zone. He's really trying hard to try new things to keep this band fresh. I mean, this is their 6th album.
Yeah.
So at this point, you know, a lot of their older stuff, they want to get away from that and try to experiment because they have that safety cushion because they have such a huge fan base. They have the freedom of doing that. And so I really appreciated that.
Also, I feel like, you know, like Chris said, they had to experiment. They had to do some stuff with, you know, this new album. And, you know, I just enjoy the progression. They've done something different each album. But I think by far this one has been the most experimental, the most different. And I really enjoy that they kind of took a chance. There are a lot of bands out here that don't, you know, kind of express themselves and go out of their comfort zone. I feel like they did a lot of that. And I'd also say that like a lot of the singles on this record were kind of the weaker tracks, I would say.
A few of them. Like I said, I really like Bad Vibrations a lot.
Yeah, I'm not saying all of them, but I would say like probably half of them. Yeah.
They could have picked some other choices, but like I said, that adds to like the whole surprise. Like, wow, these tracks are great. Why did they put these out? Kind of thing.
Totally.
So, did you have like any negatives about the album? Any things you would have changed? Maybe?
Some of the tracks were a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I would say that is the biggest downfall on some of these tracks. But overall, I like what they did. I like that they experimented. I like that they tried something different.
Definitely.
I think this is one of their best records to date. Honestly, I would say it's a very close competitor to Homesick, and that is by far one of my favorites. So.
All right. So what are we gonna score this up, Brandon? What are you gonna give this out of 10?
I'm probably gonna give this. I'm gonna give it a 9.2 out of 10. Honestly,
up there.
I feel like this is a competitor for album of the year for me. It's up there with Issues, Headspace. I feel like that's gonna be a hard contender to beat. And they still got a few other good ones like Fit for King's new records coming out this year, which I'm stoked about. Artifacts Pareo, they're kind of a smaller band, but you know, the singles that they've released so far, I'm really stoked on that record. But overall, I feel like this is definitely album of the year contender,
Oh
up
man.
there with like again Emerosa, Issues, a bunch of other bands that I like. But what about you, Chris? What'd you
All right,
think?
well, I'm gonna have to give this another high score. I'm gonna give this a 9.0 out of 10.
Oh, nice.
On my, because I've been listening to A Day to Remember since the old record, or before that, it was called something else. But that's the one I have. It's called Old Record.
Yeah,
And so I'm a huge fan of the old
of
school stuff,
course.
like For Those Who Have Heart and
Oh yeah.
Homesick. And I feel like this album kind of channeled some of that stuff and grew in new ways. So yeah, as far as like weighing it against the other ones, it's not better than Homesick. For me, it's still not better than For Those Who Have Heart, but it's definitely I think it's going to be the third notch for
Ooh.
me. So this is, to me, Common Courtesy has, still been their weakest album. Those, separates. Oh
Yeah,
man,
what separates me
separates from
from
you. That'd be the next lowest. But yeah, this album's great, guys. I think you're gonna enjoy it if you've been longtime fans of A Day to Remember. So definitely check this out. Guys, make sure you comment down below. Tell us what you thought of this album, how it ranks in your Day to Remember rankings, and do you also think it's album contender of the year? I think it is as well. This is up there with that Blink-182 and that Bayside album for me. So,
Yeah, speaking about Blink, they're on tour with them as well. So
oh
if
yeah,
you have not checked them out, go see them. It's a rad tour. Again, it's Blink-182, A Day to Remember, All Time Low, or All American Regis, depending upon where you live. And then they have like a DJ guy that opens up. But this album and just this tour with the Blink is a huge thing for them, and I like where they're going, and I'm super stoked to see what
oh
happens in
yeah,
the future for them.
oh yeah. They're doesn't look like they're stopping anytime soon. So don't be afraid about that, guys.
Yeah,
But that's gonna do it for us, Audio Addiction. I'm Chris,
I'm Brandon.
and thanks for watching. Bye bye.
See ya.
So did you like the video? Then make sure you subscribe to Audio Addiction's channel by hitting that button right over there. Subscribe to our channel helps you stay up to speed on all of our latest content. Speaking of latest content, you can check out a recent episode from our live weekly show right down there, as well as a recent album review right over there. And you can check us out on social media right over there. So what are you waiting for? Let's talk music.